Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking with a musical book author, event organizer who's got a great festival on later in the year. We're going to dive into some fun stories around band life and working in the music industry. So sit down and grab yourselves a little cuppa and let's dive right into it. Wow, my headphones were really loud. Then that music just nearly deafened me. Right, we are going to introduce now Mark Parsley to the stream. Everybody say hello to Mark.
Hi
Hello,
guys.
Mark.
Hi Steve.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
All good, mate. All good. How are you?
Yes, I am good. I've been very busy, but yeah, I'm starting to get my head around everything. So it's always go 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 in my head. So, Mark, we did the first episode last week where we sort of got to talking with another events organizer. Actually, lots of events coming up later in the year, but you've got something slightly different going on. Before we dive into the event stuff, you're writing a book.
Yeah. Um, basically it's called It's a Long Way to the Top. Not the most original rock and roll story, but it's all about the UK grassroots rock scene.
Yeah.
A couple or 18 months ago, I was at a festival, and as all good stories start with a pint or two, was talking to a few bands, and I realised that in the situation I'm in, both organising my own little mini festival, but also going to loads of festivals and loads of gigs, I get to see a lot of bands. I get to talk to lots of bands. I get to hear lots of stories.
Yes.
And somebody was telling me a story, and I said that would be really, really good in a book. And the guy, it was Matt from Electric Black, the drummer, basically said, "Oh, why don't we write a book then?"
Okay. Yeah, as
And
you do.
that's where it all started. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Uh,
this book, like you say, you obviously get to see a lot of bands, and I've seen you at gigs and shows over the years many times. Um, the whole premise behind this is to sort of get grassroots stories. Is this to sort of shine a light on what it's actually like for bands and artists, or is this more sort of funny, stuff? Or
it's a mixture. Um, I think there's a lot of people who go to the occasional gig, the occasional festival, and don't
yeah,
necessarily know the amount of hard work and effort that has gone in to that band playing for 45 minutes on a stage.
no, yeah,
So there's that element to it. There's the element of, do people really appreciate that some of these up and coming bands are paid a pittance, have got no money to back them up, so they're sleeping in their van.
yeah,
Um, and some of the stories, or at least one contribution, is about sleeping in vans
yep.
and the various experiences that the band have had.
You do
Um,
what you got to do.
it's very much about the people side behind the music, behind the guys that are on the stage.
Yeah,
So as you know, you step out on stage. You've got you just before you step out, you put on your performing persona, mask, whatever you want to call it.
yep,
You play. The fans all enjoy it, but who knows the people behind that? Not everybody has the luxury of being able to talk to the band afterwards, or necessarily see the band 2 or 3 times a year.
yeah.
So this is very much a get to know the people behind music. The other thing as well is that the stories aren't just from bands. So I've
Okay.
also got band managers, stage techs, um, event organisers,
Yeah.
basically everybody. Um, Jay Shredder, producer, as you know Jay quite
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Basically anybody connected with the grassroots rock scene, I've reached
Hmm.
out, that I know, that I've reached out to and said, give me some time, give me a chapter, and the guys being or everybody being as they are and so part of the community. Everybody has been really, yeah, good at coming back with something.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think it's fun to share some of these stories. I mean, I was talking last week with Trevor, and I told him one of my stories about playing in front of 15 people in the arse end of Wales somewhere, and tiny little what seemed like a youth club, and yet somehow it's still one of the gigs that stands out to me. So I like the idea. Have you had much feedback from bands? Have you had a good response to it? Have you had plenty of people getting back to you?
Um, the original plan was to do 20 chapters.
Okay.
I've already surpassed that. The new plan is 50,
Wow. Okay.
50
Okay.
chapters.
Wow. So
Um,
it's gone better than you thought then.
yeah, there's a few bands that and a few people that have come back and said that they don't think that they've got anything that should be published or that they want published,
Yeah.
which is fair enough.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. But the uptake on this has been absolutely phenomenal. Really has.
Well, awesome. Well, like you say, it's fun to share, and I know, and nowadays as well, bands, artists, we're all looking at the moment for new ways to sort of share, promote, let people. I think one of the big things that has changed everything is obviously the whole what do you call it? Since the reality TV started, then you got vlogging, and what vlogging allows artists to do is give a little bit more of an inside, behind the scenes look at an artist and almost be able to put across our personalities,
Yeah.
what we're into, all that kind of stuff. And that now has become such a huge, important part of being an artist. And still, a lot of artists that don't particularly grasp that yet. It's not something they're doing enough of. And I don't think that they all necessarily realize now that, as well as just putting out great music now, that's not enough. You've got to share a little bit more. So, sharing those stories and showing people what it's really like behind the scenes is definitely a good idea for bands to be doing anyway, I
I,
think, personally.
I think the bands that for me that will have longevity in especially in the rock scene are bands that actually make a connection with their fans. You've
Absolutely,
got
yeah.
loads of bands out there who have got amazing music,
Hmm.
but if they're not connecting with the fans, how
Yeah.
long does that fan base stay around when you've got so much music coming out?
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Um,
Do you know what it's what, Mark? You obviously go to a lot of gigs, and I do too. Either playing at them or seeing them. One of the things that has always struck me as odd, I've never done it, and I don't think I'll try not to. I suppose if you're super duper famous, it's really difficult to do because you just get absolutely mobbed. But I have, this is us diving into stories already now. So I have this issue with, and I still think it's a big issue with bands that spend all of so we'll do a show, and then my bands, and I've always insisted on it, no matter what band I've been in. I do take a little bit of a lead sometimes. I feel like there's certain things we should do as a team. And one of the things I've always said is one of the reasons I had previous, not success, I don't want to call it success, but the reason I've always been able to play big shows and do things and be able to sell tickets at shows is because I've always insisted we mingle. And
yeah,
I've worked with so many bands that will just go and sit backstage and they won't come out until it's time to sell merch till they want something from the crowd. We do so many shows now, and I know the names of hundreds and hundreds of people that have come to all the shows over the years, and I know them all, and I feel like they know me, and I know that every time we put out tickets or we announce a show in a particular area, I can almost guarantee 20 or 30 faces are going to show up at that show without me really having to try and sell the tickets. And I find it really strange that bands still do that. I don't know what that is, or whether it's an ego thing, or whether it's, I don't know. And do you come across that much? And
it,
what importance do you put on that?
well, first of all, it's interesting that the bands that I know that come out and talk, and they'll talk before a gig, they'll be there for the support bands, they'll be there at the end. They're the ones that have all jumped in and are contributing to the book.
Mm.
Um, I could have almost predicted those people that wouldn't have done this based
Interesting.
on the fact that they are the people that you don't see,
Hmm.
which is sad in one way. I think that I think it all touches on that personal connection, though. If you've got a
Yes.
personal connection to a band,
Hmm.
you want to go and see them. It's not just about, as I say, it's not just about the music. It's wanting to see them do well. It's wanting
Support them. Yeah.
you. I think somebody said to me. Actually, it's in one of the stories. I think. You know, bands in the past, the big bands were almost these unattainable stars. You had posters
Yeah.
of them on your bedroom wall. You saw them on videos. You saw them on TV, and then you go and see them at the NEC or
Hmm.
wherever, and they're always in the distance.
Yeah.
The grassroots scene isn't that. The grassroots scene is at a personal level,
Yeah.
and I think that is so important for music. I really do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. When you say grassroots, up to what level are we talking? Are you talking like bands that have? Are you still considering grassroots bands who are currently doing their own headline tours in venues like KK's and places like that, or are you talking? Are we talking a little bit below at that level? Where's
It's about just up to that level for
yeah,
me. When you
yeah, that's
start
where.
seeing bands touring in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
doing
They've
Germany, France, Netherlands,
they've
um,
gone that step above.
I think they're that step above, and at that point, that's when managers start getting involved and record labels start getting involved. And
Yeah.
um, I won't name the band, but there is a band in the rock scene who I wanted to use some lyrics from one of their
Okay.
songs.
Yeah.
So I approached the band, and they told me to go and speak to the manager. Approached the manager and just got nothing back. Absolutely
Mm.
not interested.
Yeah.
Um, I found another song which absolutely fits the book perfectly. Um, spoke to the band themselves. They are managed, but they manage themselves as well. And they were over the moon. Like, absolutely, yes, we'll be there. Just put the lyrics in. We're
Yeah.
happy. Um, so I think there is an element of the more successful bands get, the more they start to drift away from the fan base,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
is a bit sad. But
Mm.
that,
There's
that
a
that's the enigma of music. You want to see the bands that you support do well,
yeah.
but when they're suddenly stepping up from headlining KKs to headlining the Civic or
Yeah.
supporting at the NEC or whatever, all of a sudden they're not accessible to the fans anymore.
Yeah. And it's a shame. I realise there's elements to that, but it is usually to do with money and labels and managers. Now, there's a trend at the moment, Mark, which I'm really fascinated by, and I'm following quite heavily. Especially these movements are happening more so in America at the moment. They generally do tend to be a little bit ahead of the stream when it comes to like marketing yourself and all that kind of stuff. And I'm actually watching and following along with some extremely fun legal cases that are going on at the moment with some rather large organisations and independent artists. Now, there's I follow an independent artist, and I have done for years. His name's Nick D. I'm quite into my hip hop as well as my rock music. Anyway, this guy's an independent artist. It was touted by a couple of record labels. This guy's gone completely on his own. He's understood the importance of social media, like we've just said, interacting with your fans and all that kind of stuff. And he sort of really laid out the template for me for how it should be done. But this kid now, he's got no management. His friend helps him like do stuff. No management, no record label, and he's now got record labels coming to him, and this is happening more and more and more, where artists are starting to get a little bit more savvy, and now they are able to put their own teams together, and if not themselves, bands it's a little easier because there's normally 3 or 4 of you. Each person can take on an individual job, but what I'm finding now is I think there's going to be a future. We were talking about this just off air, but I think there's going to be a future in the very distant future that streaming platforms are going to die because I don't think they're sustainable. They're not making profit, and they're having major issues now with the top artists
Yeah, I'd
who are
agree with that.
now. Well, Kanye West has just put out his new album, and it's not on any of the streaming platforms. It's only available on his website and via a paywall and behind and physical copies. That's how he's selling his albums. His album. Now, some of his fans have gone mad over it, but here's the interesting part. I think he sold. I don't know the exact figures, but he said he got a huge following. Say he got 13 million followers on one of his social media platforms. He said if just 10% of them go and buy my album for $20, which is what he's got it selling at, with about 17 tracks on there. If only 10% of them go on there, he said I make half a $1,000,000 or something overnight. Now, no record label involved, no middlemen, directly straight to his bank account, hard copies. Do you see a future where I don't? Are you a CD buyer or a record
I
buyer?
I
Do you
buy
buy
a
them?
C I buy a CD from every band that I follow.
You do.
So, be it at a show, or be it through pre-launch, or whatever, however they launch their, every band that I follow, I would get a CD from. I may listen to them on Spotify, but that's a convenience thing, not a
Yes.
replacement. Because I see that perhaps I'm still old school, but CDs are supporting the bands directly.
Here's an idea I've had, and you tell me what you think as a consumer. Okay, so like this would be interesting to find out now because I've never actually sort of said this to anybody out loud. This is what I plan to do. I have some solo music that I put out as well, and that's where I'm going to test it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release singles to Spotify only. So maybe I'll put over the next 6 months, maybe I'll put out 3 or 4 singles over the next 6 to 7 months. I'm going to release EPs and albums solely behind a paywall or on hard copies. I think we were discussing this before as well. For an artist, a solo artist, to earn the minimum wage off of their music, they'd have to do 800,000 streams a month to earn 15. I think that it was in dollars, $15 an hour over a 40-hour week. So that's not sustainable for the average artist. But here's an idea I've had. So I'm in the process of developing a website. Now you tell me if this is nonsense or not. This might be a bad idea. But I figured if you got a favourite band and you could subscribe to their music on a streaming platform where you could go to... I don't know why Spotify don't do this. It drives me nuts. So if Spotify just had a little button that says subscribe to this artist to get access to their albums, not, just to their albums and all of their content. So allow a couple of singles out that the artist allows out for free. But then if you want the body of work, the albums, and access to everything that this artist does, it's $4.99 per year for that art to support that artist. Now, that's so for $4.99. If I put out 100 songs in a year, you get access to all 100 of them. But the artist, some of the feedback I had from artists was, well, is $4.99 a lot? Is that enough, really? And I says, well, for you to get $4.99 from Spotify, you have to do, one person would have to listen to your song 5,000 times or thereabouts. Now, they're probably not going to do that in a year anyway. So $4.99, I think, is there or thereabouts a premium that if you really wanted to support a band for a one-off payment once a year. I don't know. I'm just playing with ideas at the moment.
I personally, I think that's a good idea. My biggest bugbear about the music industry is there are too many people that leech money. They take money out of the value stream, if you like, and they don't add value.
No, they don't.
No. So if my I know for a fact, my £15 subscription to Spotify or whatever, that's not touching the bands, but it is paying some exec at Spotify to drive around in a new car, and shareholders and and all of those people. There needs to be something which links up value to the artist to their product.
See, during COVID, Spotify did a thing where they added a PayPal donate button on the channel. And I can't understand, like in the same way that YouTube, when you get to a certain number of subscribers on YouTube, you can have payment walls on you, so $1.99 a month, $4.99 a month, etc. And behind each of those paywalls, you can say, well, if you're a member one, you get access to all of our singles. If you're a member two, you get access to all of our singles and our albums and behind the scenes content. Yeah. And then if you pay $4.99, you get access to all this other stuff. And I honestly can't understand why Spotify, with the infrastructure that they've got and the size of business that they've got, why they couldn't implement that. Even if Spotify said, we're going to take 10% of every payment that comes in through someone subscribing to your page on Spotify for per annum, I would go with that as an artist, because at least it gives us a chance of making something
Spotify
back.
won't do something like that until somebody disrupts the market and
Well, that's what Kanye's trying to do now.
It's very much it's a simple model for them. They take people's money. There's that's all they do. They're not really adding any value here at all.
Yeah.
And they get away with it by people assuming that Spotify or Apple Music or whoever, that's the only route in.
I think
it isn't.
I think a lot of consumers are still totally unaware. I tell people at work, and when I tell them how much we earn, I've got a song that I've written with a fella in America, and he's got millions and millions of streams. You just assume naturally, right? Hey, you must be making loads of money from that song. You're like, we're really not.
Yeah.
64 million streams, and I'm like, it's not a lot of money. Not when everybody's been paid and everybody's took their splits, and the writers and the producers, and he's with a label, so they obviously take a chunk. So as a writer, I get a decent amount of it, but it's not a lot of money. Not for 64 million people have listened to a song and we've earned a few grand each. Like it's ridiculous. And then when you take off all our marketing efforts that we've put into it, that probably just about broke even. But that kind of ties in with what you're doing with a festival. Do you want to explain a little bit about your festival that you work?
So yeah, and myself and my wife put on Shark Fest. I'll explain the name. My wife's Sharon. I'm Mark. It's Shark Fest.
Okay. Not a mutual love for sharks.
Not a love for sharks, although that has become a thing now.
Okay.
And somebody did ask if we were being highly ironic because we put it on in Cannock, which I think is as far away from the sea as you can get in the UK.
It probably is 2 hours, isn't it, from any
yeah,
sea.
Exactly. So so we originally put it on for our wedding reception. We went away to get married and then had a little bit of pang of guilt that we didn't do anything for our friends. So we got 8 bands together, hired a venue for the day, put on a day's festival. And then, as I said earlier, every good idea comes after a pint or two. At the end of this, quite a few people came up and said, "Oh, this would be a really good idea if we did it again." So we've put on 4 so far.
Awesome.
A day's festival, 10 bands, all up and coming. We were going to have you guys from Soul Revival in March. Unfortunately, things went a bit pear-shaped with the March this year.
For that one, yeah. There's another one later in the year, yeah?
We've got one on the 12th of October the Patriot in Crumlin in Wales.
Okay, cool.
And we've got the likes of Ashen Reach, Black Lakes, King Kraken, Electric Black, Hot 1-2,
Awesome.
The Priory, Shape of Water, Wicked Jackals, Idle Minds, and Yeki Da. So we've got some Welsh bands. We've got some top-notch English. It's not a country thing, but we've gone for some local bands and some good touring bands as well. And yeah, it's a day where the bands get treated as well as we can treat them.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, completely unrehearsed. Somebody commented. One of the stories in the book commented about Shark Fest and the hospitality that we put on, being better than most. We make sure that every band gets paid fairly.
Yeah.
So we don't do any of this. You're playing for exposure, or you're only paying for petrol money.
Yeah.
And we're fully prepared to take a hit. We've done 4 of them, and one of them broke even.
Cool.
One of them we made a little profit, and by that I mean about 200 quid.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 2 lost money. But we're happy to do that because it's a good day. Everybody gets to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
So
I think one of the things is as well when you go into the subject of the money side of things. I think most bands especially when they're first starting off. I've never been that bothered about. I think a lot of people have just come to accept the fact that we just don't get paid, which is really odd because I talked to a guy who I work with who's in America at the moment. Well, I say in the moment, that's where he lives, but he's in America, and it doesn't matter whether you're an originals band, a covers band, you get paid something usually, and I think when you're trying to promote your own stuff, you understand that pay's not going to be a big thing, and I don't think you're doing it for the money, although that would be nice at some point. I'm happy to do most gigs for free as long as I got a chance to potentially sell some merchandise or that sort of stuff. If it's 100 miles away, then of course you want to try and cover costs where you can. But I think for the most part now, musicians have just become you don't get paid for shows, you don't get paid for your music on streaming, you don't get paid for you get very paid little for YouTube and social media. I think we've just become programmed to not getting paid, and we kind of it's the only art in the world. If you're an artist who paints a picture and you put the picture up, you're usually putting it up to sell and someone's going to buy it with cash.
Yep.
I can't. If you're an art, if you're writing a book, you expect to sell the book and turn a profit. You make your content with the expectation of actually making some money. I think musicians are the only, and we are a business, we are an industry. We are the only industry that can go in. We can, we've all heard this story. Travel for 500 miles in a car that's worth about £500 with about £5,000 worth of gear in there, and then get paid nothing for doing it.
I believe one of the stories in my book covers that very concept.
But we just think we've just come to accept it now, and in the hope that one day you make it big, and then when you do make it big, you get called a sellout.
The only argument I've ever had with a band that we've asked to play at Sharkfest was Black Tree Vultures when they were playing. I asked them how much they wanted, and they came back with a value, and I said, no, "There's no way I'm paying that. That doesn't even cover your petrol."
Okay, yeah.
But I initially just went back with this. I'm not paying that. But the first response was, "Is it too much?"
Okay, see what I mean?
No, you've absolutely undersold yourselves so badly.
It's just because that's what we used to. It's like we did a show. We played a massive show with the Westlands, my other band. We got invited to play the Winter Gardens in Blackpool for the British Country Music Festival, and they said send us an invoice. No, we hadn't discussed price with them or anything. They just said send us your invoice. They wanted to book us. They were putting us on a good slot, on a good time, massive crowd, and me and Emma were just like, oh, invoice. What should we charge? We were thinking like, oh, let's just get 100 quid for the fuel, not taking into account we've got to drive there. We've got to get van there. We've got to stay overnight because it was an all weekend type of thing. We had to pay for hotel rooms, Airbnbs and whatnot, and stay up there and then drive all the way back. We were probably spending about 200 quid each to get there, but we were happy to do it for nothing. But yeah, I just find it an odd industry. It's we have to do it for the love of it, because if we're doing it for the money, we'd have quit immediately. But I do think times are changing though, and I do think it is going to be something different is coming down the pipeline.
Things have got to change because it's not sustainable.
It's just not. I know so many people, great bands that have quit because they just can't afford to keep it going.
Musicians, it's not just the gigging, it's the rehearsal. You've got to spend money on your rehearsal space. You've got to spend money on your equipment.
Yeah.
if you're a guitarist, strings, plectrums, all of these things cost little bits and pieces.
And
And
if you're the guitarist from the Soul Revival, you're buying a new guitar every other month. It's ridiculous how many guitars that man has. It's a joke.
that's just guitarists, mate. That's just guitarists.
Yeah. But no, it's so what's the so obviously talking about music stories now. What's some of your highlights? Having been to so many gigs over the years, can you off
Oh,
the top of your head, could you anything stand out to you?
I think there's too many. We actually returning. I can remember returning from when we got married in Mauritius. We landed in Manchester Airport at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Drove back to Telford, got changed, went to KK's to see those damn Crows playing
Oh yeah, yeah.
at the front at the barrier, and I am struggling to stay awake whilst also singing along at the top of my voice on like autopilot.
Yeah.
Uh, there, there's so many stories. If like us, you follow bands and you get involved. The festivals are brilliant. I've shared beers with Carl, Tom from Wolfjaw in
Yeah,
their
yeah,
caravan at HRH. That
yeah,
was
yeah.
an eye opener because they'd just come back from doing some gigs in Germany, and
Yes, yeah, yeah.
they were showing us. And these weren't huge venues; these were sort of pubs and clubs, but they were showing us the hospitality
Yeah.
and just hearing how bands are treated. That was an eye opener for us. Standing every Shark Fest I've done, standing stage side and watching.
That must be a good
Um,
feeling, putting on an event like
it's
that and watching it work.
it's the closest I get to being a musician. I have no musical talent at all.
I was going
Um,
to ask that actually. Do you play?
no, I
No.
um, just as a little digression. I tried learning guitar during lockdown. I had a
Oh,
little
okay.
got myself a little acoustic.
Yeah.
Videos on TV from YouTube playing, and what the sound I was making absolutely atrocious. Put the guitar down.
Yeah.
Looked at it a couple of days later and thought there's something odd about it. It just wasn't right. Then came to the realization that the guitar was strung for a left-handed guitarist, and I'm right-handed. That's how bad a musician I am, right? But when
Yeah. I haven't
but if
done
you
anything that bad,
but
I
if you
don't
love
think.
music and you've got no a musical ability, I envy yourself as a singer.
Mm,
Being able to see a crowd
yeah.
sing back or react to what you're doing
Yeah.
is has got to be such a rush.
That
And
is the best bit. I'm a lyricist as well, so I write all the lyrics to all of the songs. Emma writes obviously with my other band. She writes a lot of the lyrics with me. But one of my favourite moments ever in music was actually something that went wrong at a show. So we were playing the Asylum with Piston back in the day, um, and we came out. We did rehearsal. We were playing with Toesland.
oh yeah,
I was playing at Toesland at the Asylum in Birmingham, and we came out onto stage after we'd done sound checks were perfect. Everything was great. I walk up to my microphone. I'm not about to start singing, but I just want to address the crowd while the lads are playing the intro part to the song. No sound at all. Microphone's not working. I'm trying to work it out. I'm trying not to make too much of a panic about it while I'm on stage. I've done thousands of gigs by this point, so I'm pretty well versed in case what goes wrong on stage. So the boys were looking at me, so they just thought they'd keep on looping it until I managed to get it working. I then walk over to Jack. His microphone was on for some reason, even though he never sang, but it was on. So I grabbed that microphone. But before I got to figuring out maybe try a different microphone, I turned out and looked at the crowd. Most of the crowd, I'll be honest with you, were there for us, which was amazing. But they were all singing the verse already to the
oh wow,
song, and they were already singing the song. So the crowd had realised there was something wrong, and they'd already started the song. So the boys had cottoned onto it and carried on playing. And I got the other microphone to work just as we were heading into the chorus. So, and it was just, and I finished that song, and I was just like, I had to take a step back. I was just like, that was the coolest. I mean, it was shit that the microphone didn't work, but that was one of the coolest moments. Because that was the first time I think that had ever happened to me on stage, especially with a crowd that size. And then a similar thing happened when we played Planet Rockstock, and you were like, we're at this event in Wales, or I think it was in Wales, and then they start singing your lyrics, and these are
Mm.
people that you've not seen before. These are people who maybe heard your song on Planet Rock or wherever, and you're like, this wasn't our normal audience, yet they knew the words to songs, and I was just like, the fuck is this? This is what a feeling, man. There's like, it's odd because when you write songs, especially when you write the lyrics, I question myself all the time. I'm like, is that too cheesy? Does that line make sense? Does that like? Because I like to write my songs like stories, and so there's like some substance to them, and I'm always asking, like, even when the song's already out and people are reacting to it. We've Soul Revival, we had a song come out 3 days ago, and I'm still listening to the pre-chorus, going, does that even make sense? Have I written that right? Is that? But people are telling, the response has been fantastic, but I'm like, I don't know. I still don't like it. It's such a struggle, like, to know. And then when you're about to, you do this big build up to a song coming out, and then it's just that waiting game. Then it's like, shit, are they gonna like it? Are they? It's it's horrible and brilliant at the
Mm.
same time.
You say
It's
about the lyrics. I was talking to the Hot One too a couple of weeks ago. I really like their new album. Loved the band for a good few years. Well, there's a lyric in a song which doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I asked the singer, Simon the singer. I asked him about this particular lyric and said, "Why did you choose that word and not anything else?" And I was expecting something deep and something meaningful, and he just
yeah,
came back with, "Because it rhymed."
yeah. I knew that was going to be the answer. I knew that was going to be the answer. I've done that as well. I've done that in the past. I don't do it anymore, but there are times, when you just like, right, this just works for some reason.
Mm.
And having said that, I mean, I listen to I because I produce music, I have to listen to what's in the charts, and it is crap most of it. But I noticed there's a lot of guitar based music coming back. A lot of rock singers, like the boy that's number one at the moment from America, that Benson Boone. He's got a song out called "All the Beautiful Things." It's a pop rock song, but it's still very good. Um, but when I'm listening to lyrics of pop songs in particular, it's almost as though now the lyrics, and I've actually seen some famous songwriters say that the lyrics in the verses almost don't matter anymore. It's the melody that matters. People don't remember. They remember the melody before they remember the words, and I still don't personally buy
Oh,
that.
I don't. No, I don't think that's right.
I don't. I mean, there are songs like, I mean, if you think about, I think the Beatles must have got to the point where they were so big when they wrote "Come Together." They must have just gone, I reckon we could just say whatever we want, lads, and they're gonna buy it. Because that song, what is that about? If someone can explain "Come Together" to me, you're a genius.
Yeah, let's face it. LSD probably featured quite heavily in the guitar in the songwriting process. So
No, yeah, I do hear actually quite a bit. People keep talking about nootropics and psychedelics as part of the songwriting process, and a lot of great songs have been written. I'm yet to give that a go. I'm yet to give it a go. I think
yeah.
I'm sticking to the way I'm doing it at the moment. So maybe if I start running out of ideas. Anyway, well, like I said, when do you anticipate getting your book finished by, Mark?
So we're about 40% of the way through. Just had the first half of it proofread and fed
Oh,
back, which is brilliant. I'm
awesome.
hoping to get everything across to an editor and a proofreader, a final proofread by the end of June. So I'm hoping for mid-November to hit the Christmas rush.
Awesome.
So yeah, at that
Where
point,
can,
it'll be all over Facebook all over Facebook as I can get it.
do you have a page for the book at all, or that you've created, or?
Not yet, not yet, but that's gonna happen.
Well, when the book is out, we'll get you back on so that we can link people. This is a new podcast, but we have started to pick up some viewership on it. So maybe by then we'll have a lot more viewers, and we can come back on and plug the book again and push that out to a few more people.
That'll be cool.
and then we can share links and where you can buy it and all of those good things.
Yeah, it
Lovely.
is just worth pointing out as well that all of the profits for the book go to the Just Push Play charity, the Dementia Aware Fest charity, and the Wolverhampton Mayor's Fest charity.
Awesome.
So they're three festivals that I go to. They're three festivals that support charities and do brilliant jobs. So yeah,
Are you going? Are you going to be at Mayor's Fest at the Gifford on the 5th? I want to say the
unfortunately,
5th.
I'll be in Norwich watching Bad Touch, Karma Effect, and Electric Black that
Oh,
day.
okay, that's a good lineup. We'll let you off for that one then.
Yeah, it's not bad.
We are playing that one. We're headlining, I think. Yes, we are. I should know that, shouldn't
You should.
I? Yeah, we should. I should definitely know that. Yeah, like you say, we should have played in March with yourself, but we had a change of. Well, we've had quite a big change in the band with the guitarist, so we ended up writing all our songs again from scratch. And to be fair, it was probably a good decision to wait before doing gigs because I think now we're starting to get it ready and polished. I think we're all super happy with where it's going now, and the first two songs have been out and released, and the feedback has been great. And we personally don't think the best songs are still to come anyway. That's what we think. We think that the stuff that we're working on is better. So hopefully, people who have enjoyed what we've put out so far will enjoy what's coming up very
The
very
new
soon.
stuff, mate, is absolutely awesome.
I'm
Um,
I'm really happy. I'm rarely happy with anything that I do. Uh, but I'm struggling to pick holes in this. I mean, I'm working with, as you know Carl,
yeah,
who's as good a drummer around as you're going to find. Higgy, who plays bass with a lot of personality, which is great, and he's very skilled. And then Andy is as good a guitarist as I've seen on stage at any standard. So I
well,
think
I think after your last show, I gave him the compliment that he was as close to Gary Moore
oh
during one song
he'll love that.
that I've heard for a long, long time. He was
He will love that.
yeah.
He'll love
Um,
that because that's one of his faves. He just actually went down to the Gibson showroom down in London, and he met Jared James Nichols, and Jared got him up on stage to play with him at the and
oh
it's
wow,
obviously we've just posted a bit of that footage actually. I think or it's going to get posted tonight. Go and check that out, everybody. As a bit of a moment for Andy there, and Gibson gave him a big shout out. I think he's endorsed by Gibson anyway, so he does work with them. But he's a phenomenal guitarist, so big props to him. I hope he doesn't see this now because he's gonna hear me giving him compliments. I need to keep everybody grounded. But yeah, do you know what? That's one thing I struggle with the most. I hate it when you come off stage and people start giving you compliments.
I
I'd
know.
be
I've done it, and I've seen you.
I'd be far more comfortable if someone's come up and said that was shit. I really would. I don't know what to do with that information. Someone says, "Oh, that's great," or "That's good." I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." Like, I don't know what to say. It's still after all these years, don't find it weird.
It's a musician thing, though. You talk to a lot of guitarists, and they'll remember the one note out
Yeah,
of a 45-minute set that they played incorrectly,
yeah,
where
that's me all day. That's me.
where nobody in the audience absolutely knew that it was wrong,
So,
and
someone,
and
some,
they'll focus
someone,
on that one thing.
someone described the other day when I came off stage, someone who I know knows the music world quite well, and they come over and said, "God, you've got tinges of like Chris Cornell, you got tinges of Miles Kennedy, you got like these." And I'm listening to this, and I was like, "Have you got something wrong with your ears, mate? Because they're some of my favourite singers of all time, and I cannot do what they do." It's like, and I don't. I think there's. I was actually listening to this podcast the other day. It was talking about the psychology of hearing your own voice and how you're just not made to do it.
Yeah,
Because when you hear your voice when you sing, not only do you hear it audibly, but you also hear the resonance of your head, your chest voice. You hear all that resonance, so it sounds completely different. So when you hear a recording back of your voice, often you will go, "Oh, that's not good. Don't like that." And he did explain the science far better than I just did, but it is a thing that you're just not the way you're taking your own voice compared to how other people hear it is different.
Mm.
So maybe I just need to get over it. But yeah, no, awesome, mate. Well, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you
And
for inviting me.
good luck with the book. I will get you a chapter over, no problem. I've got two. You can take your pick from whichever one you want. I've got two that I couldn't decide between that I'm going to send you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. What one you may be able to print, the other one may not. But I'm happy for you to do either. It's totally fine.
I've got one story in the book which I am surprised, and it was written complete. I didn't write it at all. It was written completely by the guy. Some of his fans may not see him in the same light in the future. It's a funny story, but
Yeah.
it's not one that if it had happened to me that I would ever want anybody knowing about. So,
Well, I look forward to reading the book now because already I am intrigued. All right, brilliant. Thank you very much, Mark.
cheers,
And
Dave.
guys, if you enjoy these episodes, please like and subscribe. Most of you are watching them after we finish doing the lives. But yeah, if you could subscribe to this channel, it's going to help it out. We're going to get guests back on, like we just said with Mark, a bit later in the year so we can see how things have gone. You can tell us all about your festivals and your book and all the rest of it again. But brilliant, you're doing great work. Thanks for sharing and doing what you can to help grassroots music because it's a tough job and we need people like yourself supporting us. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Awesome,
Cheers, mate.
mate. Right then, guys, thank you very much. See you later.